Hello and welcome to the PvE-Gamer. Today we are going to take a look at the Rules Clarifications document for Skytear Horde. This is version 1.0 and a lot of great people from the community are doing their best on Discord and by making comments in this document to make this rules clarification as good as possible. Thank you very much for that, guys, girls and people. So let's check out what we have here. The rulebook errata says something about the components page. They have the wrong card back. Okay, it's the same back as the Horde card. And playing or moving an ally as you engage a minion. This is the first one that is very interesting. Beforehand is replaced with now in the rulings. This is to clarify that you can use play abilities against the minion you just engaged. And they give a very good example immediately. And this is Cloud Tearers from Leothon. When they come into play, they can damage minions as they engage them. So they deal 2 damage when they come into play. And they have a power of 2. So effectively, you can vanquish 2 minions with power 2 or less with Cloud Tearers, which is a very nice 2-for-1 card advantage. And this makes them a powerhouse in gaming, especially against low health minions. The only champion and the only Horde hint texts are one of the most confusing things in print. Unfortunately, there was an error in production and the italic hint text has the wrong numbers for armor value, so this is asked over and over again. Perhaps we can get replacement cards in the future, but here it is hinted at again, so the armor value is actually correct and the flavor text is wrong. The Utseshi Storm Tower card, this is a small clarification. It says you must discard a card from their hand to engage a monster, the player that wants to engage the minion. Without this clarification, it could be perhaps read in a cooperative game as one player engages the minion and the other discards a card. So this is not possible. It must be the hand of the player that engages the minion. So how to resolve doubts? This is a very general information, but interesting. The outsider spawn timing clarifies that destroying the stage 2 portal is a strategic option you have, but it is not required to win the game. Usually you're thinking about destroying the stage 2 portal because stage 3 is a lot easier from spawning rates. For example, for 1 player and normal, the cards spawned are 0, 0, 0 and 0. So going to stage 3 is very beneficial to stop the Horde onslaught. But if you have enough punch with your allies to kick the outsider away immediately with stage 1 and stage 2, you do not necessarily have to destroy the stage 2 portal. You can just focus on the outsider immediately. Drawing alliance cards. When you destroy a monster, one alliance player may draw a card. And this clarifies that this includes epic monsters, outsiders and minions. Everything is a monster and will draw you a card. Except skeleton tokens, of course. Those pesky things give you nothing. Destroyed minions. When a minion is destroyed, discard all their attachments and tokens, place them back in line. They're effectively out of play and they only enter play again if they get a plus health token, and then they are back for action. They re-assault your castle and want to make your life miserable. One question that has been asked a lot is about the pre-made decks. So in the manual it says there are 40 cards, but if you count them, there are 41. This is because of the Kickstarter stretch goals, and you have 3 heroes in your pre-made decks, and you have decided to use 2 of them. So if you check the castle, the back of the castle card, there are deck building options, and they say that you must not use more than 2 legendary cards. And heroes are legendary, they are very powerful, and to keep a lid on the power level, you have to decide for 2 heroes. Competitive mode, I'm not playing that a lot, so I can't say too much about that, but it is a very short part of the document. The discard piles are face up, public knowledge, and unordered. This is very important for one of the other hints in the document. This means you can shuffle them, you can go through your discard pile, you can reorder it, you can stack cards in a way you like so you find them easier. Everything that speeds up the flow of the game for you. Static abilities and triggered abilities are explained again, so static abilities last as long as the card with them remains in play, and triggered abilities trigger at a specific time and are resolved only when they trigger, so this is a bit of clarification. Also for replacement effects, this usually happens when multiple cards have an effect and you're in doubt which order things happen or when things happen. The destruction timing, so this is very interesting because this is a bit counterintuitive for people coming from Magic the Gathering or other things, other games where you have a stack and where every card effect is fully resolved before resolving the next card on the step, because it is here in bold and underlined. If a destruction is caused by an effect that is not fully resolved, pause resolving it to take the following steps. So this would mean if you cast a combustion, which deals 2 damage to a monster, and the monster dies and has a destruction effect, this destruction effect will happen before the second part of the combustion, so dealing 2 damage to the neighbors, will happen. So this is a bit counterintuitive if you're a card game veteran, but it is not too complicated and you can memorize that one easily. So if it gives us a better play experience, personally I'm not having a problem with that. So it also says what happens when the destroyed cards are discarded. If it was the castle, the alliance loses. Bad luck. So, extended glossary ability. If a card has more than one ability, these are formatted as different paragraphs, so we can better identify them. This one is very interesting again, add X mana, and the new thing here is one alliance player of choice gains X mana. So formerly, if you had shamans with Leothon, for example, you could only add the mana to your personal mana pool. Now you can share the mana as you like, so you can add the mana to your partner's mana pool in the game, and this makes for a much more fun and cooperative experience, because formerly you had to gain the most out of the cards and the card draws and mana. You had to stack all the card draw on the person who had more mana, obviously, but now you can distribute the mana as you need or like. The armor effect. The armor effect is on the first glance a rather easy thing, but it can be complicated when a lot of instances stack, multiple instances of armor, different damage effects, and here they clarified very well and very extensively what pierced armor is when you get damage. So if you have a case where you're in doubt, just follow the rules as written here. Attachments. The interesting part is there is no limit on how many attachments a card can have. So what we can do is, for example, with Kurumo, we can build a defensive deck that tries to stack attachments with Assault on a single strong card, and then tries to blow up the outsider as it enters from the portal phase 3. We can stack as many attachments as we want on a single card. Very nice. Then we have the difference between damaged and a -X health counter. So this is important when dealing with armor. -X health does not consider armor, damage does consider armor. So, but we had that before at the armor part. Rebuild X. This is the one where it is important, then you can order the discard pile any way you like, because this means when you have rebuild, you can choose any cards you want, which is especially interesting when you have only a small deck left, so you're going to draw these cards a lot sooner, and this makes for some very interesting scenarios. Finally, some card clarifications for smart people who wanted to reanimate the behemoth or put it back into your hand with Plakali. This is unfortunately not possible. You have to consider the printed mana cost. So the behemoth mana cost is 25 unless you are playing it. Sorry, Reanimator friends. That's about it. That's a very nice draft which clarifies a lot of things which I also personally experienced. The date is February 2nd, 2023, so this will get updated again. There are still some comments which need resolving. If you have your own comments or if you see an error or want to add on the document, I will put a link in the show notes and you can also find them on Discord. Thanks again to all the contributors who make this great game even clearer and even better.